Hey, in this video, we're going to talk about how you can get a good deal as a buyer. There's a lot of homes out there, and sometimes you might see a home for sale. They're listing it for $400,000, and you can't afford that, and you think they're not going to budge on that price. And then another week later, you see that they sold the home for like $370,000, which is what you could afford. Well, what the heck's up with that, you might be thinking or asking. So that's what we're going to go into in this video. When you're out home hunting, what can you do to increase the possibility that you can get a good deal, what to look for. So stay tuned, we're going to go into all of that. And hey, if you find this to be helpful, please do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button to stay tuned for more videos. So let's get into today's topic. How do you get a deal? Well, first thing is, they call it the 3Ds in relation to the seller's reason that they're selling their home. What are the 3Ds? Well, three common reasons that people will sell a home, and it's their motivation for selling, either death in the family, a divorce, or some kind of debt. So, they're fairly obvious reasons why you would then be selling the home. Divorce is pretty obvious. Home's too big, you're splitting up, so you sell the home, people are going different ways. Death in the family is also, fairly obvious. Maybe, home's owned by parents, and, the siblings are living in the house, and after the death, the house maybe goes into probate or some reason like that, or the siblings decide they're going to sell the house. Get the money for the house, or debt. Someone's starting to default, but they can't make their payments on their loan. Maybe they're, going into foreclosure, so they're going to have to sell their home. So they're three very common reasons. But some other reasons are things like, people moving out of state, or maybe they're moving their job to a totally different part of a big city or a town, and they want to move and be closer to work. Maybe they want to be closer to parents or a children's school or something of that nature. So people will often, consider moving and therefore selling their home, in order to make a move somewhere else. So, there's some of the major reasons that people will sell a home. And having said that, when you're looking to buy a home, what you want to do is you work with a good realtor who, a good realtor, what they're going to do is they're going to get, if you're interested in a particular home, they're going to get in touch with the listing agent and find everything out they can about that home, including what's up, why is the seller selling, what's the reason, what motivation do they have, and, included in that, is there anything that, we can do in an offer to make it more attractive to the seller? That's really important to do. For example, sometimes, I remember with a client, we were making an offer on a home, and it was a number of siblings owned a home that had been passed on to them by their parents, and one of the siblings was still living in the home, and the other two were not, and they just, for different reasons, they wanted to recover the market was good. They wanted to sell the home and each put some money in their pocket. So that was their motivation for selling. However, the sibling who was one of the owners, who was still living in the home, was wanting to have what's called a leaseback agreement, or I talked to the listing agent and to the owner themselves when they were there, and found out they were saying, hey, it would be really helpful if I could stay for 30 days, 60 days, so after the house sells, I can kind of have time to get all my stuff together and move and all that kind of thing. So getting that information can be very helpful and help you get a deal and make your offer stand out. And check the link above, actually, because I go over in a couple of other videos, how to put a winning deal together, how to make your offer stand out above the others, and that's really important to know that. So check that link out above right now for that. And then, so knowing the seller's motivation is the first thing, and is the first big key to getting a deal. Because once you know their motivation, then you can kind of work in an offer that makes your offer attractive, and maybe there's some room for negotiation where you can get a deal. Now, some of the other things to look out for in general, separate from the seller's motivation, it can be tied into the seller's motivation. Firstly, Is the home vacant, or is anyone living in it? That's a big clue right there, in that if you have a vacant home, it's often a vacant home, the seller may want to sell that more than if someone's living in it. If someone's living in it, it's either owner occupied, which means the seller is living in it, so there's slightly less motivation to sell because they have to move, or they have a tenant who's paying rent, which means they're getting they're getting that income from their property, so maybe there's not such an immediate need to sell the home while they're still gaining an income from the property. However, when a property is vacant, the seller's thinking, well, that property is just sitting there, it's costing me money, every month in the mortgage or whatever else, I may as well sell it. So that's one thing. Is the property occupied, or is it vacant? So that's something you can look for when you're looking for a bargain. So often places that are vacant, there's more possibilities or opportunities for a possible deal right there. Maybe there's more motivation, in other words, for the seller to sell that home. And the more motivated a seller is, the more possibility there is to work with them and negotiate a favorable terms for you, where you get yourself a deal. So that's one thing to look for. Another thing to look for is the price. When you look at the price of a home, has there been any price reductions? So maybe over the last couple of weeks or over the last month, the price went from 450 to 444 to 440 down to 438 or something of that nature. You see that now and again. Well, that's a big sign right there. That's a big clue that you have a really motivated seller. They're reducing their price. They need to sell their home. So, you really want to pay attention to that. If you see some price reductions in a home, that's a big clue right there that there's an opportunity for a deal right there. And the flip side of that is if the house has been sitting on the market for a while and the price hasn't changed, maybe the seller is just fixed at a price. Maybe they're even putting it on just to see if the house would sell. Maybe they're not inclined to sell. Maybe they're thinking, I'm only going to sell if I get this price. I'm not going to sell a house unless I get 450, and that's it. There's no other way it's going to happen. And sometimes you get that. Sometimes some sellers are not even really serious about selling. They're just putting their house on the market at a certain price to see if anyone's going to buy it and anyone's going to offer them that amount of money. And they're not in any way, shape, or form going to sell that home for anything less than the price that they're asking for. So sometimes when you see a home that's been sitting on the market for a long time and at the same price, so no price adjustments have been made, that's sometimes often the case. So in that case, you can feel like there's probably not a deal to be made in that situation. And then speaking of a house that might be sitting on the market for a while, another thing you can look out for are the number of upgrades. So, people watch the shows HGTV and they see all these nice homes on TV, all, decked out and upgraded and remodeled. They look really good and that's what they want to get. So what happens is, when you see homes like that on the market, those houses go quickly. So when you come across a house that has a fair market value price and it's got lots of recent upgrades, the paint's all new, maybe all the cabinets have been redone and the countertops have all been redone in the kitchen feels all brand new, it's just all looking really good, that house is going to go quickly. Now, as opposed to that, let's say you've got a home that was built in the 1980s or 70s, so maybe it's getting up to being 50 years old now, and no upgrades have been done on it. The carpets are old, the paint's cracking a little bit. It just has a feel, the cabinets are the original cabinets, and they don't look all that great. And nothing in the house looks, it's not all upgraded. It doesn't look all that good inside. That house is going to sit on the market a little bit longer, but at the same time, there's an opportunity right there to make a deal on that kind of house. So that's something else to look out for. The state of the house in terms of its upgrades and how recently that's all been done. So that's another thing you can look out for to get a possible deal. And then another area, in terms of the seller, being motivated to sell, and it could be in terms of they're dropping their price, but there's a situation, they call it an uplink or a downlink sale. So let's say you have a house for sale, but the seller, the person who's selling their home, is actually also putting an offer on another home because they want to move. So a seller is trying to move to another part of town, and they're putting an offer on another home, but their offer is contingent upon the sale of their own home. And that often happens. You can even write that into a contract. You can even write an offer on a home and saying, we're going to offer you $500,000 for this home, and there's a clause in there where you can say, but the offer of this $500,000 is contingent upon the sale of this other home that we have. So that can be a very highly motivated seller, because they've made an offer on another home, but now they're kind of in limbo. They're going to maybe lose that offer unless they sell their own home. So when you come in and you offer and that, then you have some room to negotiate and maybe make a deal, because maybe, if put it this way, if they weren't trying to buy another home at the same time, and you put in an offer that's, let's even say it's a lowball offer, in other circumstances, they might just reject you out of hand and say, absolutely no way we're going to accept that offer. But when they're really motivated because we need to sell this home like tomorrow or today or yesterday, so we can continue making this offer on our dream home over there, they might get to the point where they say, you know what, we're going to just take this lowball offer so we can sell this home and we can get into our new home. So that's another situation that often arises. And it's one to look out for, where you can get a good deal on buying a home. So, there's some of the main scenarios where, when you're out house hunting, to watch out for those things. And if you see any of those things, you may well be able to get yourself a good deal. So, hey, listen, I hope that was helpful. And, when you do all that, it goes without saying, you're best off doing that with a good, licensed real estate agent, who can help you in the negotiation. And it's not like you're trying to, to do a bad thing to anyone else by lowballing them, or you're not trying to screw someone over or anything like that, but you're still trying to get the most competitive value you can for a home. So you're looking for a deal, and some people are in a situation where they can actually give you a deal, and it might actually be helping them out. So, when you're getting into that and you're looking for that kind of thing, get yourself a good real estate agent who can help you through the whole process. And, if any of this information has been helpful to you, hey, do me a favor, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, stay tuned for more videos. And also check the link below. I've got a lot of good other videos and contact information if you want to contact me, for a lender or a referral or for any kind of needs. Hey, do that too. And I appreciate you listening, and stay tuned for the next video.